Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Carruthers, and I'm the communications manager for MotoAmerica. I'm joined by Sean Bice to my left or right. I can never tell on this stupid thing, but he's there somewhere. And this is our weekly podcast for MotoAmerica, Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. And today, our special guest is the handsome, young, athletic, smart. Who is it?
He's
I can't
everything.
tell. Michael Gilbert.
Oh, please, guys.
Michael. We're kind of bummed because we were
Yeah, we're
we
bummed.
we want you to race so bad in Moto America, and there's a good chance we may not see you this year, at least at the racetrack.
hmm
Um, I know you weren't you decided you opted not to have the team, the Michael Gilbert Racing
hmm
team, and we can get into that. And I think you're adopting the have leathers will travel. If anybody needs a rider, they've got a good one that's just sitting in Southern California ready to go. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about why we're not racing.
Man, I think that there's a lot of reasons. I mean, I think obviously, Paul, you and I get to hang out and ride bicycles, so you kind of know the full story. But, I think number one, I guess priorities are changing a little bit in life. I have a new to me business that is really taking a lot of my focus and my time and energy and effort. So that being that my brother and I are actually taking over my father's sheet metal shop that he's had for 40 years. So we do a bunch of laser cutting and punching and everything in house. And that's I don't want to say the biggest factor, but then truthfully, I think after the last 2 years of running my own team, I was quite burnt out, quite honestly. Um, you guys know I had some big injuries. I obviously broke my femur, and a lot of people don't know, but I broke my right ankle 2 weeks before I broke my femur in 2022. And funny enough, you break the biggest bone in your body, and it's really no big deal. They put a rod in me, and I was walking the next day. I break
Mm.
the tiniest 3 millimeter chip off a bone in my ankle, and I'm still kind of dealing with it day to day type of thing. And funny enough, it's actually okay on the motorcycle. It feels just fine, but like day to day sucks, man. Like I don't think I'll ever run a mile again type of thing.
Hmm.
Um, so there's that, and then just you know, the stress of running a team. I mean, I think any team owner in the paddock can relate. And I've talked to Kyle Wyman at length about this, kind of being the rider and racer. And, I kind of got to the point last year where I was laying in bed in the middle of the night, stressing about how I'm going to make it to the next race or pay my guys or all the little things that go into putting together a Moto America program. And I'm like, why don't if I'm going to stress, why don't I take this stress, put it into this business that's already pretty
Established.
successful and actually go make a living? You know what I mean? Like rather than trying to just get myself to the races. Um, you know, so it kind of came down to it. And had you asked me in November, December, whether I was going to race in 2024, I would have told you absolutely not. I need at least a year, kind of just, get my grounding, figure out what I want to do and go from there. And then Honda obviously put up all that contingency. And then it was like, oh, well, game on. And I actually went out and bought a Honda. I bought Jeff May's Hondas. I kind of went to him and said, hey, I'd love to buy one of these motorcycles. It basically just, you know, gave me a platform to start. And then the plan was to potentially get a 23 or a 24 and build up a new one as well. Um, and we started going down that route. We started testing, and then truthfully, I think the hardest part about the paddock, and I think just about everyone in it can agree right now, is finding people, finding quality people that you trust that can work on your stuff and help you in the direction that you need to go. Uh, and truthfully, we couldn't get that together and get together all the parts and spares and time to go to Barber. So that being said, like you said, I have leathers, I have a Honda, I have a motorcycle for stock 1,000. Um, you know, maybe we get to the Ridge, maybe we get to Laguna. Uh, uh, but until then, we got some other things going on that I'm sure we're going to talk about, and we'll just see. I hope to be back in the Moto America paddock this year, but we'll just see how it plays out.
And I
Man,
think, oh, sorry, Sean. I
go
think
ahead.
the big challenge with the new job and the company is, I know your dad started it, he's had it forever, and it's just a case of trying to modernize how things are done, right? I
Hmm.
mean, he was old
Hmm.
school the way he did it, and now he's got his two boys in there probably telling them what to do.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think he probably won't even watch this because he can't wrap his head around trying to figure out how to watch it. If that tells you anything about how the technology in this business is. I mean, man, we were on an Earthlink email for the last however long. We literally just got a Gmail account like 2 weeks ago. So that's like I can't even tell you how much of a game changer just that is. So yeah, I mean, like I said, this business has done very well for itself. And truthfully, we could kind of stick to it and just go that direction if we wanted to be complacent about it. But of course, I mean, we're goal oriented and, I want a successful business just like I want a successful race program. And I'm going to pour my effort into this and yeah, just modernize it, get it up to speed, and then hopefully scale it and kind of see what happens once we get there.
It's funny, Michael, when, I'm glad you told us the backstory on that, because when that whole contingency about Honda came out, the first comment I saw was from Jeff May. The second thing I saw is, I think, a post of you on a Fireblade. And
Hmm.
then I got thinking, is he catfishing us now that he told us this story? But you were serious about it. So
Uh-huh.
how about Barber? I mean, Hondas did pretty well. I mean, look at Gabriel Da Silva on one of Jeff May's other old
Hmm.
Hondas. I mean, he actually did really well on it. So that must have tempted you a little bit, didn't
Oh, 100%. I couldn't even watch the races because it was kind of just breaking my heart. Um,
it?
yeah, I mean, Jeff sent me that bike and we got on it at Chuckwalla and honestly went pretty damn fast right away. It's a really easy motorcycle to ride, truthfully. Obviously I had the year I had in 2022 when I had the GSXR 1000 program. Um, with the crashes, but truthfully, I felt like I was riding the best I ever had, and I never been so comfortable on a motorcycle. The Honda is like very close to that and better in other areas.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's just a really enjoyable motorcycle. The fact that Honda is doing what they are uh, to support racing and get back into it. I mean, hopefully other manufacturers follow. But yeah, it's awesome. It was definitely stinging watching the races at Barber for sure.
Yeah, and I mean Gillum, my gosh, I mean he even did really well on basically a stock Fireblade in
Hmm.
Superbike. So
Yeah.
that was pretty impressive, and he's echoed the things you have too. It's just such a good bike to race, and and there's so much more they can do with it. I mean, they're on the early days on that. So was the bike that you had the one that ended up that Gabriel Da Silva is racing?
No,
Oh,
Jeff had two bikes, three. It was kind of complicated. Like he had another one in parts or spares. But I have one of them. I think Gabriel has one of them,
okay.
and so he kind of split that up. Yeah.
So is it a case of, if you wanted to do Laguna, the things you just dust it off and you could go?
Yeah, I mean, I think Laguna is something that we could definitely it's feasible because it's 4 or 5 hours from my house. For me to go to Barber, the issue is like we needed all these parts and truthfully sourcing the parts from Honda or from Europe or Japan was kind of a pretty difficult thing to get them here in time. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to travel 3,000 miles to show up and someone oil the track on Friday and I fall down and my weekend's over because I don't have the parts to put the thing back together. So that's kind of where my head was at with it. I think if we were to have, like I said, the parts, the spares, the people, it would have been game on. Um, but also that being said, again, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but my schedule is going to be super gnarly hectic if I was to do Barber. So yeah, it's all good.
Okay, so I won't name any names, but there's a guy we ride bicycles with that's at Honda. Couldn't he sneak some stuff out the back door?
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Okay, so the thing you've got going that I know you're excited about now is you're getting the chance to go race in the World Endurance Championship,
Hmm.
at least for the one round. I know you
Hmm.
recently tested, and
Hmm.
I know it's with JP. Tell us how that started, and just tell us all about what you've got going with that, because it's kind of cool news.
Yeah, absolutely. So, myself, Jason Pridmore, and Andrew Lee are all going to be teammates at the Spa 8 Hour in Belgium, and that's happening on June 8th. Uh, Truthfully, it's a dream come true. I mean, it's going to be really cool to partner up with JP and partner up with Andrew. JP has obviously kind of been my coach and mentor for the last, I mean, I don't know, I met him in 2014, so a long time, and I look up to him a lot. Andrew's one of my best friends, and it's just going to be a blast. So yeah, it's kind of a funny story. We were at Chuckwalla one night, sitting in Simon's apartment, and Andrew is Andrew's sitting next to me, and he starts kind of spouting off because I think Le Mans 24 hour was coming up at the time. He starts spouting off, man, I'd love to go do Le Mans 24 hour one day. And I'm like, well, shit, at least you've gotten to do Suzuka 8 hour. You've done some world endurance. I haven't done any of it. And JP is sitting across the room. So he starts spouting off. I can make a couple phone calls. I could get you guys there. You know, it'd be no problem, this and that. And me and JP, or me and Andrew are like, come on, dude. Like, we've literally been hearing this for years. Like, either do it or don't. And so JP's like, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm sending a text right now. So he sent a text to Denisa, and she's the owner of Mako Racing, her and her husband Mako, who JP used to race for in the
Yes.
World Endurance Championship. And so, you know, they just checked in, and if my memory serves me right, by, you know, this is probably 9 o'clock at night at Chuckwalla. By 9 in the morning the next day, Jay had basically sent a text, would Mako be interested in putting together a second motorcycle for me and my two kids to come race the Spa 8 hour?
My two kids.
And yeah, exactly. And they are basically like, absolutely. So, and then the ball just started rolling. You know, we are kind of, as JP tells the story, we were looking at the calendar and we're like looking at what conflicts with MotoAmerica and what doesn't. And he's like, you know, obviously, Le Mans 24 hour, I think, was the weekend of Road Atlanta, so we couldn't do that one. He's like, oh, thank God, I didn't want to do a 24 hour anyways. And then Boulder Or, I think, is the weekend of Coda. He's like, oh, thank God we can't do that one. And I might get out of this. Suzuka's in Japan, which they're not going to this year. And then Andrew goes, well, what about the Spa 8 hour? That's in between Road America and Brainerd. We could probably do that one. And JP's like, oh man, shit, you know. So it's you know, he made those connections, and the ball got rolling. We actually flew over to Slovakia maybe 2 weeks ago to ride the Slovakia ring, and we met Mako, we met the whole team. We went over there. I tested for 2 days. I had to split, come back to work. Andrew and Jay tested for a third day, although I think the weather wasn't so good. And it was awesome. Like, it was a really cool experience. The motorcycle is really good. The team's awesome. That racetrack was awesome too. It's a racetrack no one's really ever even heard of.
Right.
And it was really, really neat. It was a really cool place. So yeah, it's been a blast. And yeah, I leave to go to the race next Friday. So it's coming up really, really quick.
Wow. So the last time Jason raced for that team, I think it was on an R1. Am I right about that? And are you racing a Yamaha this time?
I believe it was 2014 was the last time that he raced with Mako, and yeah, we are on an R1. We're racing the super stock category, so we're not doing the full blown super bikes of World Endurance, but we are in the exact same race. It's basically a race within a race, like Superbike Cup, and we'll be out there doing our thing.
Wow, that's
And
incredible.
I've heard conflicting stories about how you go about setup for an endurance race. I think it was Chavi at Daytona when we had him on the podcast, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said that you set the bike up more for the slowest guy on the team than you do for the fastest, because the slowest guy needs the most help. Is that a case, or is it just a compromise?
Well, truthfully, when we were over in Slovakia, number one, we were all pretty similar speeds. Like, it was pretty close. And it was a funny experience because me and Andrew, you know, we've been competing against each other for so long, but then we'll be like sharing a hotel room one night when we're coaching, and we'll start talking bike setup. And it kind of turns out we set up things very, very similarly to each other. So I've always known that. And Jay, you know, he's ridden a couple of my bikes in the past, and we set up things a little bit. We set up things very similar, although those two guys are a little bit heavier than I am. So sometimes my bikes are a little bit softer. But it was a funny experience with the team because I would be out, you know, they were kind of letting me have priority on the second day because I wasn't going to be there on the third. And I would come in and say, I need more engine brake, or I need this, I need that. And they're like, no, 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 we need to let the other riders ride it first. I'm like, I'm telling you guys, if I'm asking for this, these guys are going to ask for it too, because I know the way that we ride a motorcycle. That being said, I don't think there was anything in terms of setup that we really differed on per se. I think the only thing was more so ergonomics, just because again, those two guys are bigger than me. And the one thing about it, and it wasn't even really a seating position or anything, but the gear shift lever on the left side of the bike, Jay has it in a different spot because he can't move his ankle because of all the injuries that he's had. So that one was a little bit, you know, you just kind of compromise, but it is what it is. You know,
Is his bad ankle the same as your bad ankle or not?
nope, they're opposites.
Oh, okay, that
Yeah.
would have worked out well.
So that brings up another funny point. We've all been joking, you know, because it's a Le Mans style start. You got to run across the.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I got a bad ankle. Jason's got a bad ankle. Andrew had a bad hip from an injury from running. So we were like, you know, between crutches, a wheelchair, and a walker, someone's going to have to go across the start finish straight for the beginning. But we even we threw it out to one of our friends who's going with us. He's our friend Tyler Olmstead. He's a successful local club guy, and we were going to have him as our reserve rider. And we were like, well, shit, maybe you're going to run across the straight, do the first lap, and then tag us in, and then we're off. So
I think JP and the walker is the best idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Just from a photography standpoint, I think.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, you touched on something, Michael. So I was wondering, when it's an 8-hour and you've got 3 riders or possibly 4, all 3 of you guys participate? Is that, you know, you don't have an alternate when it's 3, huh?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It's my understanding the alternate basically before the race, the team manager goes over and signs a paper. These are our 3 riders. If for some reason one of those 3 backs out, then you're just down to 2. That alternate rider actually has to be subbed in before the race even starts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just learned that the other day, actually. I didn't know about that one.
Yeah. That's interesting. In an 8-hour, how does it work with qualifying? Do you guys all try to do a fast lap, or is one person designated the one that does it?
We all get a fast lap. And again, I'm still so new to this, but again, it's my understanding that they actually average the 2 faster riders.
Okay.
The third rider kind of gets axed out of qualifying in terms of the average.
Now, you guys are sponsored by that team, but are any of the 3 of you bringing any sponsors from the US that you have, or is there anything with that team as far as other sponsors you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, this is really all possible to our friend Simon. Simon has been behind me and my race program for a few years now. Simon is honestly the most amazing person. And, you know, outside of the racetrack, at the racetrack, he's really just a wonderful guy. And this kind of all came up, and, you know, Simon's all into his European track days right now. So he kind of saw it as an opportunity to go over and hang out in Europe with us and maybe do some riding. And so he's really the big one behind it. I just picked up my brand new Dionysi suit yesterday that we're going to go over and wear. We're all going to be wearing matching stuff. And, you know, just, it's going to be pretty awesome. The team name is called, I think it's JP43 Training by Mako, or maybe it's JP43 Racing. But yeah, we'll go over there and do our thing and just have a blast.
Now, are you still does your job now allow you to still do some coaching with JP? I know it's probably a winter thing, anything at Chuckwalla, right? I mean, the summer it's not bearable, or is that a year-round deal?
No, it's a winter thing. Primarily at Chuckwalla. Yeah. we do coaching on the weekends. Previously, I was coaching on Mondays and Tuesdays and doing stuff like that as well, which I've definitely backed off of now with the business. But yeah, I'm still doing quite a bit with Jay, and we do some stuff outside of Chuckwalla at other racetracks. I think Jay's actually going to Buttonwillow this weekend. I mean, equally as hot. But yeah, we kind of do it anywhere and everywhere.
It's funny because I always see your social media posts and you're showing that water truck or whatever almost every, and I'm like, damn, does he live there? He's like, it's like constant.
During the winter, I practically do. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got a path that goes directly from your house, a little worn in trail there on the 10.
No kidding.
I wanted to ask you about cost a little bit, personal cost to you, Michael, because I know when my wife goes to Spa for 8 hours, that's pretty damn expensive. So
that's a spa.
Okay, got it. No, but is it with a
Spice with his dad jokes?
with this, yeah. And I also was going to say that guy you were talking about before, by the way, the guy that's kind of helping you guys. When Simon says something, you go with it. You have to go with it.
He's bringing it all out today.
But seriously, is it a lot of expense for you guys, or do you have it set up so it's pretty, most of it you're covered and you just get over there?
Yeah, I mean, without spilling too much detail, I guess it's a pretty awesome deal. I mean, even for what the team's doing it for on the monetary side of things is pretty unbelievable. Obviously they have their existing World Endurance team, so we're going over there and piggybacking off of it, which I think sheds a lot of the expense. But yeah, I mean, it's a fairly good deal. And then, I'm gonna take my fiance over to France for a couple days beforehand.
Perfect.
So yeah, we're kind of making a little bit of trip out of it. She's never been out of the country, so I figured, might as well go over and enjoy it for a couple days. So that's gonna add up, and we're getting married at the end of the year too. So I'm kind of hemorrhaging money this year, but yeah, it's all good.
Well, now that you got the Gmail, the money will start coming in a little faster.
Well, yeah, I'm going to hold back right now.
Michael, do you know if Andrew is going to be able to coordinate it all with, I mean, I assume Mallory's still over there with what she's doing, or is she back in the States? Okay.
Currently, I don't know where she's at, but so I know I'm flying over to France. We're going to hang out in France for a couple days. JP is flying straight from MotoAmerica over there.
Wow.
And then Andrew is going to ride Donington Park on the Monday, Tuesday prior, I think, because Mallory races, I think,
I think he told us that.
So he's going to go over and ride those 2 days with her, and then they're going to split and come back over and join us in Belgium. So yeah, everyone's kind of got different plans, but we're all kind of making it something,
That's really cool to do that. That's going to be quite an experience, man, alive. Have you ever been to that track before?
I've never been to that track. I don't think any of us have. It's definitely a bucket list. It's definitely a bucket list track for sure.
Yeah. So if you're taking her to Paris for this race, that you could probably get out of the honeymoon and just do the Chuckwalla. Just trying to save you some money.
I've suggested every option you could imagine. Married at Chuckwalla, shot photos by Jeff Allen at Cycle World and Bird, like stay in the cabins out there. Yeah, no, she didn't have any of that.
Well, you mentioned Jeff Allen. That brings me to another subject. You worked for Cycle World for a long time. Is it? I mean, obviously with the new job, you're not doing that anymore. Are you doing any freelance testing for him or anything, or there's no time?
I haven't done anything. Yeah, no, I haven't done anything since I left. I mean, I think if I wasn't racing or trying to race some and I had a little bit of free time, then maybe I'd call those guys or call some of my friends at other publications. But no, I haven't really touched any of it. I do miss it. I will say I do miss it. There's been some pretty cool press launches this year. I think Chris Ulrich and Adam Waheed, they were over in South Africa for a Bridgestone launch that just looked amazing. There's been some really cool stuff recently that I'm like, man, the good old days type of thing.
I haven't done it in so long, but every time I see him on those trips, part of me is just like, ugh.
Yeah, totally.
Because it was the best part.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, we've done some pretty cool things for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, Michael at Barber, Bryce Prince was there and we got a chance to spend some time talking to him. And some of his situation is similar to yours in that
Hmm.
he's really got a lot going with that dealership. Man, he told us he's got like 24 employees now and
Hmm.
he's building like hundreds of engines for people in
Hmm.
AFM and stuff. So it was great to see him. I'm glad he's going to have a team this year. His riders actually did really well. That might have been another thing I wondered if you thought about the fact that, somebody that mimics you or parallels you in a lot of ways. And Bryce is finally back in the paddock, and we're glad to
Hmm.
see him. So it's kind of cool
Yeah,
for him.
totally. Bryce and I have had those conversations. Like you say, we are in a similar boat. We've talked about it a few times, and he's getting his thing going, and it sounds like, you know, obviously it's well established and it's moving along. So, hopefully when this place gets rolling and, we modernize it like we talked about earlier, maybe it gives us a little bit of leeway to go racing again and split out of the office and hopefully be back in the paddock full time. Who knows?
Now, I've been there, and actually, you weren't there. I was visiting your dad, but
Hmm.
it's a pretty big business. I mean,
Hmm.
how many employees are there? Do you have there?
We have 11 in the shop.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep. So a fair sized business.
a lot of
You know,
machinery and
a lot of machinery. Yeah, we primarily are laser cutting. We punch and we do all our own deburr and forming in house, and then we work with obviously a huge list of vendors to get it all plated and anodized and looking nice and coated. Um, it's pretty neat. We actually done quite a bit of work for Chris Ulrich and Team Hammer this winter.
Mm.
Um, so, we have some motorcycle contacts. Bassani Exhaust is a big client of ours. Uh, we have a bunch of stuff within the industry. So, it's kind of cool to see some of that. And I've been able to bring in some of my motorcycle contacts since being here too. So yeah, it's a pretty neat place.
I have to ask you something specific, Michael, about that business. So you mentioned laser cutting. Do you do any water jetting?
We don't do water jetting. Nope.
Okay. And is
Yeah,
that equipment? Is it
say
because
that again.
the equipment is expensive? I mean, I don't know a lot about it. It's just it's a cool technology.
We have three laser cutters and we have two turret punches, and they kind of handle primarily all the same jobs depending on material thickness and quantities, and then obviously kind of the profiles of the parts. They handle the same thing. Water jet, they just had never gotten into per se. They kind of found their niche with laser cutting,
Hmm.
and water jet can sometimes be a little bit messy too.
Oh, I bet.
So yeah, they've just stuck to it. Hopefully, I'm not going to say in the future we'll go that direction, but I would be curious to explore it for sure. I'd love to, look into some new laser technology in the next few years. We went down and checked out an open house at a Mitsubishi open house, and man, the new stuff is sick.
Wow.
So yeah, we'll see what kind of the future brings with all that.
Yeah, that's cool. That technology is amazing with lasers.
Yeah,
And to your point, I mean, unlike all that water that you have to deal with what to do with after it recycles
yeah,
around with laser, it's only the material that comes off of what you've cut, that's
hmm,
pretty good. So that
totally.
actually makes a difference. I want to ask you, we talked a little bit about the injuries that you had, the femur, and you mentioned the
Hmm.
ankle. So I know the ankle has a million different kinds of bones in it, but I was shocked and surprised and shocked when I spoke to Loris Baz last weekend. So he broke his ankle back in 2016, and then he broke it last year, as you probably saw in that World
Hmm.
Superbike race. And then he broke it a couple weeks ago with Richie Escalante at the end of that race at Road Atlanta. It's the same ankle all three times. And
Hmm.
we thought he just like maybe bruised it, but they had to put another screw in that ankle. And
Hmm.
he's walking around the paddock at Barber, not even limping. I don't know if that guy's got an incredibly high threshold for pain or what the deal is, but
So I've actually been meaning to reach out to him, and I've been meaning to reach out to Richie too, because it's my understanding that they broke the exact same bone in my ankle that I did,
oh,
and both of them. And I have nothing against either of them. They're great guys. They're buddies of mine. I was telling this to someone the other day. I want to make sure it comes off okay. I'm like, I, in a way, would be bummed to just see them heal up and be 100% right away, because I'm still dealing with it 2 years later type of thing.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, it's just the tiniest little chip I took off the bone, but it's the soft tissue that I did. And that is essentially required to break that bone. So yeah, I mean, I know every injury is different. I don't know what else to really say on that one. But yeah, I broke my ankle, went to the ridge, broke my femur. And when I was healing from that, they were on opposite legs. So like one day I'm like, oh man, my ankle isn't healing too good, or it doesn't feel too good. But I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's just that, I went from zero pressure on my right ankle before I broke it to then it being 100% pressure because I was trying to take all the pressure off my leg. And we ended up having a surgery to put some screws in and brace the whole thing up. And then, I mean, basically last year, this is kind of the long story, Road Atlanta, I show up and I remember cleanup on Sunday and thinking my ankle is 95%. It feels so good. We went to Barber 3 weeks later and I was miserable. By the time we got to Laguna, in fact, we were cleaning up at Laguna on Sunday. I was miserable during the race. In fact, my bike broke halfway through the race and I couldn't have been more happy. But we were cleaning up on Sunday and I don't even remember what I did, but I made a movement and one of the guys on the team saw it because it dropped me to my knees.
Oh, wow.
And so anyways, we went and took some pictures and one of the screws on my ankle had backed itself out. So I had, a screw hanging out of my ankle. We tried shooting some cortisone in it and racing at Brainerd and it just didn't work out. And so we went in and pulled that screw out and that was the end of my season. But it still just doesn't feel right. Like it still, to this day, again, it's funny because it's day to day and on the motorcycle, it actually feels pretty okay, but it burns so bad. Like, I don't know your guys' experience of breaking bones, but like whenever I break bones, the initial feeling is like it is just on fire inside of you. I still have that almost every day. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So, it's as long as I can ride my motorcycle, my bicycle, I guess I'm okay. But yeah, going upstairs sucks and I can't run, walking, hiking sometimes, especially on uneven surfaces, can be a real pain in the butt, but it is what it is. So, we just I'm still rehabbing it and it seems like it's getting better, but it has been 2 years and it just kind of sucks.
That's too bad.
When you race a motorcycle, do you use the rear brake much? Do you trail brake a fair amount or?
Prior to the injury, I've never been a huge rear brake guy, but I did use rear brake. Now I haven't really touched the rear brake a whole lot in the last year and a half, 2 years, just because of it. I would love to get a thumb brake just so I could, but I just never really have.
Yeah, I remember, Paul, this is weird. Michael talks about the femur. Man, so many guys I know, and women too. Back in the day, Larry Pegram was like the only guy I knew that broke his femur. Now it's like, Anthony Mazziato, Alexis Oliveira, Gus Rodeo, Sam Lockoff. I mean, it's crazy how many guys break their femurs and girls. And, to your point, everybody says it's not really that bad, even though it's the strongest bone in your body and obviously the biggest bone. Have you still got a rod in it? And is that going to live with you for life?
Yeah, that's the plan, is that it's going to stay in there.
Okay.
When I first got it put in, I was a little concerned about, basically, I've heard stories about rods getting bent within your legs if you were to really have a big crash and then, whatever. But then Doc Bryan, he was really adamant. He's like, listen, if you're going to bend a rod within your leg, you're going to have a lot of other problems going on too. So we're going to be going into surgery anyway, essentially. And he goes, Brian said it too. He's like, of all the people that have probably fixed broken femurs, especially motorcycle broken femurs, he goes, I've only ever seen one rod bend, and it wasn't even a femur. It was a tib. I think it was a tib fib or something. And he goes, I've only ever seen it once.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, like to your point, when I broke my femur, I thought it was kind of a rare thing for what we do. And then it's like literally the next day, everyone's messaging me like, "Oh, I broke mine. Oh, I broke mine. Oh, I
Yeah.
broke mine." And then it's like, "Oh, I guess I'm not alone in this one." So
Well, I can tell you, Sean and I have never broken a femur.
Never
And you
broken a
know what? It's
femur.
don't do it.
one of my goals in life is to never break a femur.
That's a
Yep,
good
don't
goal.
do it.
That's a good
Don't do
goal.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't mention Duhamel, but back in the day, we know about that one. I mean, heck, he showed
Mm-hmm.
up at Daytona that one year, and Garrett Gerloff did it at Daytona. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy. It must be, I think some of it, and it seems like in the case of yours, it seems like you slammed your foot down on the tarmac pretty hard, and that's what broke it. Am I wrong about that? How did it happen? Or was it an impact?
It was an impact.
Oh,
So
it was. Okay.
I think I've watched back the video a bunch of times. I essentially lost the front at the ridge. I don't even remember what corner that is, a tight left at the top of the hill. And it was a weird crash. It's to this day, I still don't understand it because I was already on the throttle and exiting, and then the front had just folded. And I ended up in the middle of the racetrack, and Ezra Bouvier hit me. And but I've watched the replay back, and from what I can see, and maybe I don't know what it is, but I don't think he actually ran over my leg. I think he had caught my ribs, and I kind of like folded over the top of my leg,
Oh,
and it
wow.
snapped itself. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, but I didn't really have any other injuries. I had a big tire mark up my helmet. But I don't ever really, I don't remember hardly anything. I don't remember other than just losing the front, I don't remember anything until the ambulance was taking me away, which is probably, I mean, it's probably the best thing that ever happened. Because the pain, I will say, was pretty gnarly until they put
Yeah.
her on it.
Yeah.
So,
The one I remember about you, now that you mentioned about tire marks. I think it
mhm.
was you. I'm pretty sure it was you. That time your face basically went into the
Oh,
rear
God.
tire. I mean, and
Yeah,
that was nuts. But did you get hurt on that in
at,
that area?
at least you remember that one. Yeah, no, I was Stefano. I took out Stefano with my face. No, I was trying to line him up to go underneath him in that right hander up the hill at Pittsburgh, and he had just cut back a little bit on me, and I lost the front and went literally face first into his tire. And if I remember correctly, I broke my nose
Oh,
and I did something to my hand, but I can't quite remember, and I had a concussion for sure. Pretty bad. In
yeah.
fact, we came to New Jersey the next week and I tried riding, and I remember I was like 5 seconds off the pace and I felt like I was going 4 million miles an hour everywhere.
Wow.
So, yeah, I kind of got banged up from that one, but Stefano was the coolest person ever in that. I just cleaned him out, and I just remember being buddies with him like immediately after. And then Andrew has a funny story about, because I got on the back of his bike and went back to the pits, and he's like, "Dude, you kept asking me the same thing every time, like every 5 seconds." So
Yeah,
whatever.
that's a concussion.
I still
Yeah.
joke Andrew owes me for that one because I won him his championship that day.
Oh, yeah. There you go. This reminds me of something, Paul. I got to ask this question too. So you touched on something, Michael, and back when I used to be with Yamaha, I occasionally, Hayes didn't crash that much, but when he did, I would sometimes try to ask him about it, and he would always laugh because I wouldn't say it the right way. I would say, "Did you expect to crash?" And of course, the answer is no. Of course, he didn't expect to
Mm-hmm.
crash. But my point is, you had said at Ridge, you didn't think. Sometimes you crash for a reason that you can't figure out, right? I mean, sometimes a
Mm-hmm.
motorcycle just do something weird that you either don't anticipate or don't understand why it happened. Isn't that
Yep.
kind of accurate? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, at the Ridge, I don't really understand what actually caused the crash. I was riding with a broken ankle, and I remember I have never been so tired on a motorcycle because when you can't use your legs,
Yeah.
it really changes things. And I remember waking up on Sunday morning and my upper body was so sore. Maybe did I just make a wrong move or something? But it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a motorcycle, there's still some unknown things about the physics of it or whatever. And I mean, the traction between the rubber and the tarmac, or, you know, something in the track. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns about it, but, you know, you expect it to perform a certain way, but it just doesn't always do that right.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
And they do
Yeah.
fall over if you just leave them by themselves. So that tells
Yeah.
you much right there. Okay, we're gonna let Michael go here. I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys do over there.
That's gonna be great.
I think number one is you guys are gonna have a lot of fun. I highly recommend, there's a bar on the outside of that final hairpin, the Losaurus hairpin. There's a nice pub there. They got good beer, and you could have a nice time there after the race. So
Well, yeah, we'll wait till after the race.
yeah, I'd recommend that. So
The-
no, have fun, and we're still hoping we run into it, you know, somewhere other than on the bicycle at the racetrack, and maybe that'll be Laguna Seca or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. And yeah, hopefully Jay and Andrew and I can go over and do the MotoAmerica paddock proud, and, you know, fly the flag and just see how we do. But yeah, I hope to see you guys sooner rather than later and get back to MotoAmerica racing.
That'd
Perfect.
be great.
All right, go run that
Awesome.
business.
All right. Thanks,
See
guys.
see
Appreciate
you guys
it.
later. Thank you.